Reports on Pakistan. Overseas Pakistanis sent the highest ever $8 billion remittances during the first quarter of the 2021 and 22, registering a growth of 12% over the same period last year. Currently, there are around 150,000 Pakistanis who are enjoying job opportunities in Doha, Qatar. Pakistan's growth expected to see a 3.5% increase, World Bank. The economics has placed Pakistan at fourth place among 43 countries with seriously high inflation rate. The World Bank has suggested that Pakistan needs an integrated and long-term reform strategy for fixing the export challenge that will require coordination among government agencies at federal and provincial levels to harmonize policy decisions, institutional strengthening to ensure effective implementation, and active public-private sector dialogue to secure the broadest support for reforms. Number six, highlighting certain downside risks, the World Bank said Pakistan's economic growth rate slightly came down to 3.4% during 2021 to 2022 against 3.9% of last fiscal year. However, it pointed out the growth rate can hit a 4% mark in the next year if the government implemented key structural reforms. According to the Commerce Ministry data, Pakistan's merchandise trade deficit in May 2021 ballooned by 134% from what it was a year ago. State Bank's second quarterly report claims that economic recovery is becoming more visible, exceeding the previous forecast to reach a 3% GDP growth rate. The size of Pakistan's informal economy is estimated to be as much as 56% of the economy's GDP. This means that it's worth around $180 billion a year. That is a massive amount by any yardstick. Only 29% of women in Pakistan have a bank account, among the lowest in the world. It is disparity severely impedes the national economic development. The government plans to control 7 million deserving women for financial assistance under its Ehsaas Kafalat program by June 2021 to financially empower women, especially disadvantaged women and girls. Agriculture represents 21% of Pakistan's GDP and around 68% of its population is engaged in farming directly or indirectly through production, processing, or distribution of major agricultural commodities. Given its role in employment, food security, and economy, it is a strategic sector for pro-poor growth and rural development. Remittances sent by overseas Pakistanis remained above 2 billion in the February of for the eighth consecutive month. A loss of almost 36 billion has been caused by the decline of cotton production from 15.5 million bales to 5.5 million bales in the last decade in Pakistan, claims Pakistan Cotton Ginners Association. As the construction of about 100 textile mills is underway in Punjab and Sindh, the country's textile exports are likely to achieve the target of over $20 billion for the set fiscal year 2021 to 2022. The State Bank of Pakistan data shows that online transactions spiking by 24% in volume to in value as more people in Pakistan are switching to internet and mobile banking for convenience. Saudi Arabia has agreed to revive its financial support to Pakistan, including about $3 billion in safe deposits and 1.2 billion and 1.5 billion worth of oil supplies on deferred payment. The Agricultural Transformation Plan 2021, shared by Ministry of National Food and Security and Research, seek to revolutionize agri-input regime to substantially increase production of major Rabi and Kharif crops, with growth in wheat yield by 41%, rice 40%, cotton 65%, and maize 40%, sugar 22%, and other crops by 30%. The more permanently and non-debt creating FDI inflows to Pakistan have shrunk by a whopping 27% in the first 7 months of 2021 to 2022 fiscal year. Under the new proposed law, the State Bank of Pakistan will discontinue quasi-fiscal operation on monetary actions it undertakes on behalf of the government, but keeps refinancing facilities it uses to support access of various sectors of the economy to stabilize credit, even if the passage from the Parliament of Amendment to the existing SBP Act of 1956. According to the World Bank report, only 4 crops, wheat, rice, sugarcane, and cotton, consume 80% water and contribute only 5% to GDP. It shows that the agricultural sector offers one of the poorest crop per drop ratios in Pakistan. According to the report recently released by Macroeconomic Insights, the power crisis has cost $82 billion lost to the GDP between 2007 to 2020. In per capita term, this power crisis has cost each person rupees 43,000 during this period, with rupees per capita GDP lower by 23% as a result. Pakistan's e-commerce market size posted a growth of 35% in the first quarter of fiscal year 2021 to 96 billion compared to 71 billion over the last year. The new estimates for large-scale manufacturing production published by the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics supports that the government claims that the economy is returning to the path of recovery from deep impact of the first wave of COVID health crisis. Pakistan paid over 7 billion in external debt servicing for the first half of the fiscal year 21, which looks significantly higher when compared with the foreign exchange reserves of the State Bank of Pakistan. Pakistan's trade deficit expanded by almost 33% to $30 billion during the last fiscal year. Since 1990, Pakistan's real GDP growth has averaged 4.2%. By comparison, South Asia has average of 6% in the same period. Textile clothing export in Pakistan soar over 13.7 billion. Government has allocated a paltry amount of 12 billion for agriculture sector. This sector contributes 19.2% to the GDP and employs 38.5% of the country's labor force. The International Monetary Fund forecast inadequate growth rate of 4% of Pakistan coupled with elevated rate of inflation and stubborn unemployment rate during the current fiscal year. Small-scale industry established and household manufacturing units have posted an annual growth of 1% and 6% respectively over the last 10 years, said a survey report of Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. Despite pandemic, the profit of banking sector surged by 42% in the calendar 2020 State Bank of Pakistan. Overseas Pakistanis remitted record of $29 billion during fiscal year 2020, helping the country meet its widening trade deficit and expected current account deficit in 2021. The large-scale manufacturing continued its growth momentum in the fourth consecutive month as big industrial sector output rose by 36.8% in May, data released by Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. According to the data released by State Bank of Pakistan, Pakistan reserve total FDI worth is $1.8 billion in fiscal year 21 compared to $2.5 billion in fiscal year 20. A decline of 28% can be seen. Pakistan State Bank said that housing and construction finance has increased by 75% to rupees 259 billion during the last fiscal year as compared to 2020. Structural vulnerabilities can impede the growth in fiscal year 2022, State Bank of Pakistan. Pakistan's export of information technology grew by 47% to cross the 2 billion mark for the first time in the country's history. The State Bank of Pakistan has kept the policy rate unchanged at 7% in the hope that current account deficit will remain in the range of 2 to 3% of the GDP in fiscal year 22. Pakistan exports to 9 regional countries posted a growth of 9%, while imports grew by 36% in the fiscal year 21. International Monetary Fund acknowledges Pakistan's stronger economic activity and keeps the global growth forecast largely unchanged at 6% of the current year and 4.9% for the next year. According to the World Bank report, 1/5 of the electricity is lost due to theft, poor infrastructure, while other efficiency issues may be costing Pakistan about $4.5 billion per year. State Bank of Pakistan projected that the current account deficit may widen from 6.6% of the GDP in the last year to 2 to 3% of the GDP in the coming year. Foreign exchange reserve of State Bank of Pakistan increased by 16 million. Pakistan's export to United Kingdom posted a 33% growth while it reached 2.025 billion in the fiscal year 2021 against 1.5 billion in 2022. The exports are mainly led by the textile products. Agriculture provides livelihood to 2/3 of Pakistanis and employs 39% of the total national labor force. State Bank of Pakistan introduced a financing scheme for small and medium enterprises, enabling them to get loans without collateral. Small and medium-sized enterprises sector play a key role in Pakistan's economy by contributing 40% to the nation's GDP and 20% to the annual export earnings. Foreign direct investment is crucial as it helps technology and skill transfer, improves business management practices, lifts exports and the economic growth of host nations, and creates jobs. CPI, Consumer Perception Index, food price inflation has come down from its peak of above 15% from April 2021 to 8.6% in July. Pakistan posted a current account deficit of $773 million in the first month of 2022-2023 fiscal year. Pakistan ran a primary budget deficit of 653 billion rupees in 2022. Agriculture Emergency Program Pakistan has been planned to enhance productivity and profitability through increase in the yield up to 7 months per acre to reduce the cost of production, ensure food security, export surplus, and retrieve area for oilseed and high-value crops to minimize import bills on edible oil. Currently, Pakistan's foreign debt to GDP ratio stands at 43% compared to 21% of Bangladesh, which also holds foreign exchange reserves of $44 billion compared to reserves of $24 billion of Pakistan. The Asian Development Bank forecasts Pakistan's economic growth rate at 4% for the current fiscal year 2022. The public sector accounts for more than 90% of financing for sustainable development in Pakistan. An average of rupees 7.5 trillion rupees of public spending will be required to halve poverty in Punjab. Circular debt of Pakistan soars at rupees 2.327 trillion in 2022-21. Pakistan's total external debt liabilities are at $117 billion. By 2023, the economic contribution of mobile industry in Pakistan is expected to reach 24 billion, accounting for 6.6% of GDP. While the country's large informal economy accounts for 71% of jobs outside agriculture according to labor force survey, the formal economy has not expanded enough to accommodate graduates. In 2021, Pakistan gets 64% of its electricity from fossil fuels, with another 27% from hydropower, 5% from nuclear power, and just 4% from renewable sources. Pakistan government proposed to allocate 1.3 trillion for defense services in the budget for fiscal year 2021 and 22, making an increase of 62%. The government has allocated 3.060 trillion for debt servicing,